I do worry about if I have the talent to push these out and really get people on board with what I'm saying, because do I have the confidence to do it? Yeah, I think I have the confidence to do it, but also I don't think I worry too. You know what I mean? Of course, if you have the confidence, there's some worry behind it, but there's some people that are like, "Man, I could do it. Like, I have no worries whatsoever. We're going to get this done." But I think just like a level-headed person, a logical person will be like, "Yeah, you know what? There are some things that I'm a little bit worried about when I think about doing anything." And the confidence to back up what I'm saying is what I'm not worried about. You know what I mean? Like, I know that I did my best in life. I know that I've given myself so much ammo that it should take me to great places. And hopefully people will look at my life and be like, "I think that you worked very hard, and I want to join you. I want to lift you up. I want to help you out in your journey to it." Because the only thing I'm worried about is fucking going homeless. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing that I'm worried about. And I know I don't really have to worry about that since I have two sisters. I have a family that's looking after me. But regardless, the way that they act towards everything is, they're just like, we're hesitant. Everybody's hesitant about the future. And that in change kind of scares me, because I'm just like, if you're hesitating, then I should really be hesitating, because I have nothing going for me. You're the one that has everything going for yourself, but I have nothing going for me. So if you're freaking out, then I think it's time for me to start freaking out. You know what I mean? But other than that, like, do I have the confidence to keep churning out content? And like I said, I just don't want to force myself into doing it. You know what I mean? I don't want to, like, if I'm laying in bed and I'm not feeling well, I don't want to be like, "Come on, get up and make a podcast real quick. You can do it. You can do it." Like, I know that I can do it, so I don't need to force myself. So when I'm like watching this Japanese news, and there's this lady and she's a Maiko, and a Maiko are those dancers that have the white powdered face, like in Mulan, in the beginning, in the opening of Mulan, when that's a Maiko. So she's like, she's the only one that is open in that prefecture. And that's a very big thing, because she is holding this candle for something that's dying out. Like, there's not many Michaels around anymore. Not many, meaning that I think almost in all of Japan, she's the only one that's open. And they do shows for different people and stuff like that. And she just works so hard. Like, she's putting in so much time and effort into it. And do I ever want to put myself in that position? Like, no, I don't want to put myself in that position. I think that that is unique about me, where it's just like, I'm working when I see the opportunity to work. Like, I'm not going to force myself to work. If I feel good at that point in time where it's just like, you know what, maybe I should get something on the mic real quick, then I'm just like, all right, let's go for it. That's why I got the equipment. That's why we have this great software running. Like, we can use it and really get to, you know, have fun and do what you want to do. But do I want to force myself? Absolutely not. And I've shown myself basically the best life. So the best life, how can you explain the best life? Like, what is the best life to you? I think it's one that is free. Like, people don't understand what free is. And I feel like I have gotten to that point where I have to show people what free is. And, you know, they think, a lot of people think they are free. A lot of people think that since they go to their 9 to 5, they are happy and content with life. And with that contentment, they think that it brings salvation, because as long as they are doing their 9 to 5 and not doing anything else, not trying anything else, they're not going out there and they're not smoking weed, or they're not trying mushrooms, or they're not robbing a bank, or they're not murdering somebody. Like, as long as they're not doing that, then, they're good. And it's like, yeah, you're good. Of course, we're not going to go to the deep end where it's just like you're murdering people. Of course, you're not going to be good if you're murdering people. But what if you're not trying weed, and what if you're not trying mushrooms, and those problems that come with it definitely can bring you to a place where now you're committing robberies for more of it because you can't handle it, or something like that, or you get sick from it. And people don't realize that without doing that, without experimenting, you'll get nowhere in life. And I was thinking about this before, where it's just like, if we don't experiment and we stay in our place, like I call them campers, people that do 2 jobs and do 9 to 5s and do 12-hour shifts, like those people are campers. They're the ones that sit in one place and they do nothing. And when somebody passes by them, they get the kill. And then, all a person has to do is run by that same exact place again, catch them off guard, and then they're dead. I'm talking about camping in like video games. But the person that moves around, the person that's running around, is the one that's gaining experience and will eventually win the game. But if you have a camper, that camper is not really going to do much. All he's going to do is just sit there all game and just try to get as much points as they can and, not move. So I'm sitting here thinking about that. I'm just like, the people that work like 2 jobs, they don't think, essentially. There's no thought process behind any of their moves. All they're doing is they're just going to work, and then God forbid they have 2 jobs. So they go to work, and then they go to the second job, and then they go home and sleep for a little bit, and then they wake up and they do the same thing again. So they're avoiding all problems by doing that. It's a cheat. Like working is a cheat, because you're not going to hang out with friends. You're not going to see what the outside world has to offer. You know what I mean? Like you're thinking that if I'm working 2 jobs, I'm making more money than anybody else. And it's like, all right, great. That makes sense. But what are you doing with that money? And it's like, oh, I'm probably going to save it for my retirement. And the only reason why I'm working 2 jobs right now is to eventually retire one day and never have to work again. And it's like, if you find yourself working 2 jobs, you're probably working outside of your means already. You're probably taking on a business, or you're probably taking on more children. Or what are you doing with your money? You're probably owning a bigger house. You probably have a more expensive car just to get what you want in life. Like you're cheating, essentially. And I said that 2 jobs should be illegal. Having 2 jobs should be illegal because of these things, because this person is not thinking. They're not being they're not being something to society. That person is just not a beneficial person. I can't think of the word, damn it. That person is not benefiting society whatsoever, because they're not experimenting with their life. Now you look around and you think about everything, and you look at these TVs that we have. We look at these computers that we have. You look at these cell phones that we have. You look at these microphones that we have. How did we get to that point? We did it by experimenting. We did it by trying and trying over again. So you have these people that are working two jobs, and they are just doing the same mundane thing over and over again, that surefire thing that won't get them in trouble. They're just doing that over and over again. They're working hard, they're hard workers. But what are they providing to society by doing that? Not much at all. Because all they're doing is getting as much money as they can, and then they're letting it go into society. You know what I mean? Like they're not doing much. And so you have them not doing much in society. They're stagnant people, just not doing anything. So what did I do in society? Like I went out and I experimented. I tried weed. I made the best life that I could have with what I was given, because I had schizophrenia at the time. So you gotta factor that into account. Because of schizophrenia, I started going out of control, basically. And I just made the best of what I could do with what the situation that I was given. So I was going to New York. And then after that, well, actually before that, I worked 9 to 5. So I was working at Costco. I was working at Arby's. And what I did was I've watched my mother and father work their whole life. And I was just given that one single example. And with that example, I just started running with it. It was just like they worked really, really hard. So I was just like, so I have to work really hard. That's another thing that working two jobs does to people. It affects the people around them. Now you have your child that thinks that, oh, the only way for me to get a life that my parents have is to work two jobs. So you're going to overwork yourself. And that's exactly what I did. I started overworking myself. I was working since I was in high school, really messed up my whole mindset of how life should be. So I'm in high school. Then I started working a job at Arby's at 16 years old or 17 years old. I think I even had my car, so it was around 17. And I'm working at Arby's and I'm playing football. I'm doing as much as I can, and I'm jamming up my schedule with as much as I could. And it was just, it was terrible for me. It was the most damaging part of my life, thinking that I have to work two jobs. You know what I mean? So I finally got into independent work afterwards. And this was after I got diagnosed, after working at Costco, after all that. I started working independently. And that was the best thing that I could have done for my life, where I picked the amount of hours that I worked. I worked whenever I wanted. I took time off whenever I wanted. When anything got too overwhelming, I just sat back and I thought to myself, I'm like, do I really need to work this many hours? Now, granted, I was schizophrenic the whole time, so I'm just going to take that little bit out because it makes the story so idiotic. It's like, well, you only did that because you had schizophrenia. And it's like, yeah, it's true. I only did that because I had schizophrenia. But it was still my choices. Like, I still navigated through all that hardship. So, you know, all that made me want to share and give back. So working that 9 to 5 made me want to speak out about it. It's like, no, I don't think 9 to 5 works. You should be working part-time. And if you're going to college, should you even be working at all is the question. And most people find themselves in a situation where they have to work. And I think about it like this. If you find yourself in a situation where you have to work, shouldn't you just try to work the smart way and probably get yourself an apartment? And if you want to go for that route, instead of pouring hundreds of thousands into school, why don't you invest in yourself and see what you can do with that time and money? Because you're going to go to a university, you're going to pay $100,000, in debt, and they're going to hold the interest for you. Yeah, that's great. We're going to hold the interest for you. And everybody's like throwing their hats in the air like that's the greatest thing ever. They're going to hold the interest for you for while you're in school. And then once you're out of school, interest will start to accrue. That's when everybody starts freaking out. That's when they're like, well, you're putting too much money. Now it's this and that. You're complaining. But everybody knew that the school system was a scam. Everybody knows that. So why don't you take your smarts? Why don't you take if you think that you're so smart, why don't you take that opportunity to work on yourself to see what else you can do without a degree? And people are scared. They're terrified of working without a degree. That these smart people that run our country, they run to school and get as many degrees as they can. And then they turn around and they start telling other people what to do. I think it's the most idiotic thing ever. You know what I mean? Like, you just have these people that don't really know how to work, and they're telling you how to work. That's essentially what it comes down to. I've seen things that need to change, and that's one of those things that need to change. Like, I don't know how I can do it. I want to do it so badly. I want to be like, you know what? I know how to change a lot of these things because I've been in the role of a criminal. So I know personally what criminals go through. So I can change, like the prison system, for example. I was just watching a show and it was a prisoner talking about his time in prison and how it's terrible. Like, everybody talks about it. It's fucking terrible. There's nobody that says I went to prison and it did a good thing for me. Like, nobody says that shit. But it's always the person that gets like, 30 days that is like, oh, it changed my life around. But those people that go there for the rest of their life, nobody hears from them because nobody cares about their opinion. So nobody listens. And it's really fucked up. But since I was in a position where I'm deemed a criminal. All right. I have schizophrenia. So I'm a criminal in most of these people's eyes. Like, that's the only way that they'll look at me. They'll be like, oh, there's something wrong with him, right? When he's off his medication, he does crazy things. Oh, yeah. And the things that he does is not proper in society. We don't like him, put him in jail or something like that. If he doesn't want to take his medication, put him in jail. And that's the tightrope that I'm walking on right now, where it's just like, if I don't take this medication, I will be put into jail or I will be put into a mental hospital and left there to rot for the rest of my life. And I sit down every day and I think to myself, like, damn, I really can be put away for the rest of my life for something that I have, something that I can't control. And of course, people are going to be like, well, how did you get it? Like, there was this guy on the show and she told him about how her son got beat to death by a police officer. And then the guy asked a really insincere question. He was like, oh, did he do any drugs or alcohol? And she was like, no, but everybody does it at some point in time. And then he just sits there and shakes his head. He's like, yeah, I guess so. It's a really insincere question because, like she said, everybody eventually does that. Everybody does. Not saying that we should use it as an excuse now, but saying that it's just an everyday thing nowadays. Can you get liquor? It's at the store. All you have to do is have enough cash to buy it. Buy some and then have yourself a good time. But to say that, oh, if he didn't do any drugs or alcohol, he would have been perfectly fine. Yeah, maybe he would have been perfectly fine. Maybe. Okay, I'm not going to lie. He probably would have been perfectly fine. But unfortunately, he didn't have that option in life. That option left him. So I've given myself more chances than most have gotten. So I've done weed. I've drunk alcohol. I even did Molly, cocaine. I've done a lot of things. And just for me to say that, like, if I go into the afterlife and I'm just like, they'll be like, what did you do for yourself? It's like, well, I let myself try the jewels of life. Anything you could think of that gets you to the top, I've tried. Because that's how it's advertised. You know, you listen to the music and all they're talking about is smoking weed. So eventually I'm going to start smoking weed. But it's not going to be just because you were rapping about smoking weed. It's going to be, there's going to be a reason behind it. I'm going to have my own reason. And that's never going to change. Like, so why did I smoke weed? Probably because I didn't feel confident in myself. I didn't think anything was going the way I wanted it to. But then there's those underlying facts that I have no idea was there. Like, I didn't like working. And we're taught that, oh, everybody likes to work. You know what I mean? Like, you see those people that have created these big companies. You see Google, you see Microsoft, you see Apple, you see Amazon. You see these big people that created these companies and they're like, we love to work. Everybody says they're really hard workers. They work like 80 hours a week. They work like, you know, they have literally no sound or no noise while they're working. And like Elon Musk, like they talk about him and they're like, when he wakes up to the time that he goes to sleep, he's just on go. He has no noise, meaning that all he does is work and nothing can get in his way of working. Like, yes, he has a family. That's great. But once he has that conversation with you, he's back on track. Like, nothing can get him off track. And they were saying how the maker of Microsoft, he has that same mentality where it's like he has a little bit of noise, but the rest he's working. He probably has 20% noise. So maybe he's on his phone a little bit. He's like watching TikTok or watching Instagram and he just zones out for a second and then he comes back and he starts working again. So you have those people that can do all that, but then you are stuck and you're just like, well, I don't like doing that stuff. And you're thinking to yourself, like, what's wrong with me? So that was one of the big reasons why I was smoking weed. But I didn't know that. Later on, I would have to make that assumption where it's just like, maybe I didn't like to work because I see the results of everything that had happened. And I have to look at the past, future, and present. The past, I was working a 9 to 5. In the future, I can't work anymore. In the present, I can't work anymore. So what does that mean? That must have meant that I didn't like to work and that I was working towards that option where it's just like, what if I gave you the option not to have to work? Would you choose that option? And I bet you every person would choose that option. But then, you know, the all being would be like, well, you know, you're going to have to be labeled as a criminal if you don't want to work. And you're going to be like, well, there's a lot of people that will be like, well, I don't want to be a criminal, so I'd rather work. He's going to be like, you're going to be miserable when you work. And you're going to be like, I don't care. I'll keep working as long as I can stay off the street, as long as I can see my family, as long as I can have a family. And these people are taking that opportunity where it's just like, I'll be miserable, I will work. And then you have people like me where it's just like, I can't work, I can't be miserable, I can't do that to myself. So I've given myself more chances than most have gotten, you know what I mean? But right now I can talk about things with great enthusiasm. Does it have to do with the fact that I have nothing else to do? Maybe. Like, maybe it has something to do with, I don't know. I don't know why I'm able to talk about what I want to do. I know the chemical equation to why I do what I do. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that I smoked weed and I did sassafras at the same time, which blew open my mind. And I got like addicted to sassafras right away. Like, it was a right away thing where it's just like, I was asking my friends for it. I was fiending for it. I was just like, oh my gosh, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Who has some? Who has some? And everybody's just looking at me like, you got it yourself. Don't you know where you got it from? And, you know, it was so simple where all I had to do was go back to Rowan and be like, yo, let's get some more sassafras. That's all that I had to do. But instead, I started asking my friends, and my friends got concerned. They're like, what's going on with you? Because they saw that I was going out of control very quickly. And that's, I don't know. That is why I'm able to talk the way I'm able to talk. After that, that's when my schizophrenia got full blown and my powers came into play. You know what I mean? That's what I like to call them now, powers. You know, my powers came into play, and it was just, it took off from there. You know what I mean? Like, there was nothing I can say or do. My life is going to go this way, and I have to follow it, no matter how hard it is. And it was very hard, very freaking hard. I'm not going to lie. Like, the life that I've had, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, you know. But right at the end, when it really counted, when I really needed myself, I was there. You know what I mean? I was sitting there in that mental hospital where it's just like, it's just like, bro, what's going to happen now? And it's like, you're going to take this medication. And I'm just sitting here like, what? I don't want to take the medication. And it's like, no, you're going to take the medication. And I'm like, but I lose you. I lose the part of me that makes me me. Now, this new part of me that creates podcasts, this new part of me that writes, I can't lose that. And it's like, you're going to have to. You're going to have to take this medication. So I just took the medication, and right at the very end, that's what happened. So now I have clips and ammo that I can go on here and I can just speak my mind, even though it's not 100% great. And I do mess up a lot. I mess up a lot. This one I messed up a bunch. I wasn't at 100% right now. I should have held off, but I wanted to create something. Now I have a bunch of clips and ammo ready to go. Just ready to fucking go. I think I'm going to scrap this one though. I'm not sure about this one. But thanks for listening to my podcast, my terrible, terrible podcast. I'm going to have to remake this one. This one did not come out too great, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Au revoir.